Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Bravo back with another video. This video in particular is by a gentleman by the name of Richard Grannon, and what he talks about is 4 things to do to drive your narcissist insane or to make them miserable. This is for entertainment purposes only. I would be extremely careful because when you inflict a damage against a narcissistic person or you challenge their narcissistic authority, they lash out. They can go from 0 to 100 really quickly. So be very careful and mindful and tactical about how you approach some of these in here. And watch your back. Check your sixes, I would say, because they are not reasonable people. And once you challenge that in any way, shape, or form, it could blow up on you. So with that being said, I'm going to jump straight into the video.
Ladies and gents, today we're going to look at 4 ways to torture the narcissist. Step number 1, and probably the most powerful one, this is the basis for everything else I'm going to be able to teach you today, is you must reduce the narcissist's significance in your life. Do not fake this. Do not act as though they are no longer as significant as they used to be. Make them less significant than they used to be. If you want to create distress, if you want to create anguish, uncertainty, insecurity, and paranoia, you must reduce their significance. Don't fake it because they're smart in terms of detecting other people's emotional states. They have no capacity to detect their own emotional states, no capacity to self-reflect, or very little capacity, but they can map other human beings frighteningly well. If you genuinely do this, you won't need to put on an act. They'll feel it, they'll know it, and it will drive them insane with anguish because the whole superstructure of their personality is in being significant to everybody, but particularly to their targets. So reduce their significance. What does that mean? It means that even inside of the relationship, you need to let go of being with them. If it's your mother or father, you've got to grieve the fact that you never had and never will have a mother or father. Grieve, cry, go to therapy, feel sad, write poetry, whatever you need to do. And in the end, you won't be attached to them being a good mother or father. You'll have let it go and you'll have reduced their significance. If it's a romantic relationship, grieve, cry, go to therapy, let it go, drop the idea they're ever going to be a husband, a wife, a father, a mother. They're not. Despair, grieve, and let it go. You will reduce their significance. That's step number 1.
I agree 100% with what he said. You have to eliminate these people from your life. The moment you do that, you will instantly feel your life turn around. The energy instantly shifts. The moment they walk out of that door for the last time, your life will significantly improve within moments. It's almost like living with that person is just a dark cloud. There's such a negative attachment to these people that they put it on you, and then you're wearing their burden. The moment you get rid of these people, the better you will feel. Take it from me personally. The moment you have no connection to this person, you will begin to feel better. You will notice things in your life start happening. You're like, why couldn't this happen when I was with this person? It is impossible to receive any real blessings or attract positive things when you're surrounded by these people. So number 1 is super important. The moment you get rid of these people, the moment you cut them from your life, the better you will feel.
Step number 2, the second piece of advice I've got for you, the second method for torturing a narcissist would be to challenge their narcissistic idealized self. If you can challenge, deride, mock, and devalue their false self, which is their idealized, fantastical, delusional story of how wonderful, sexy, powerful, intelligent, rich, whatever they are, if you can find ways of poking holes in that from a position of reduced significance, they're in a state of reduced significance for you, so you're pretty indifferent, you're pretty cold, you're pretty detached, and you just gently suggest to them that their false self, once you've figured out and you've mapped exactly what the paradigms of that false self are, once you've mapped that and you slowly, subtly over time challenge that, you will send them into an absolute blind fury.
And I'm going to stop it right there. This is the one I said, look out, be very careful when you challenge their narcissistic tendencies. Be very careful because they don't have a gauge. They don't sit with anything and do the self reflection. They will instantly react, and how they react can be unpredictable. They start with abuse. They will physically abuse you. They will hit you. They will scratch you. They will bite you. They will destroy things in your home when you challenge those traits. They will call the police on you and they will say everything they did to you, you did to them. And typically, depending on if they're male or female, the police typically run with that story. And you are going through the notion, you're just going through the motions of having to prove you're innocent. I mean, you're hiring lawyers, you're paying attorney fees. It is just completely and utterly insane that when you challenge these people, they will take it to 100. Mind you, they've been already telling everybody's in their nest of crows that you are the problem, that you are abusive, that you have the tendencies that they have. And these people are more than happy to let you suffer. They're like, throw them in jail, toss away the key. They believe this person so much to the point where once those things happen to you, their crow's nest almost feeds them reassurance that what they did is okay. This is why these people never change. They're never challenged. They're only set back. They go back. They adapt a new formula of how to go forward and destroy your life even more. And number two, that's the one I said, be very, very mindful of how you do this. I would typically stick with number one, get them out of your life. Once they know they have no part of your life, they might then try to create scenarios to draw you back in to essentially punish you for cutting them off. So just be wary, but just know that the sooner you get them out of your life, the less authority and power they have over you, and the better you're going to be moving forward.
Because this creates a massive amount of narcissistic injury. Obviously, with everything I'm telling you here today, you need to make sure as a sovereign adult using an entertaining YouTube video that you are safe when you do this, that you're dealing with a narcissist, not a psychopath, and that the power dynamic of the relationship doesn't mean that, for example, they can take custody of your kids, kick you out of a house, drop you from a job, drop you from a team, or dump you. You need to be smart before trying to do any of this, because if you inflict narcissistic injury and they go into a narcissistic rage, their response will be disproportionate. They will pursue you to punish you for having inflicted this narcissistic injury against them. I'm just showing you how to create mental anguish in somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. What you do with this information is on you. Map their false self, map the specific paradigms of the false self, feed it back to them, and then gently, you don't have to be bold. It's better to do it the way they do it, in an insidious, cold, maybe even mocking or sneering way. Challenge those elements of the false self, which is what the things that they're most insecure about, because secretly inside they know that the false self is false, and you will create a massive amount of mental anguish in them. The third tactic I'm going to show you to torture the narcissist is probably the healthiest thing I'm going to suggest today. You go to therapy. Really go to therapy. Don't go to therapy to torture them.
And after you deal with these people, you might have to go to some level of therapy. They inflict so much emotional damage in such a short amount of time that you absolutely will have to seek some type of therapy. Your nervous system will be a wreck. You will have anxiety. You will have sleepless nights. And really what that a lot of that comes from is the expectation that you had within the relationship while you were thinking about future and kids and marriage. These people were entertaining multiple people behind your back. So while you were working towards something, they were working towards monkey branching and basically destroying your character in the eyes of anyone that would listen. Typically, it's going to be to their external sources, their supplies. They have to damage you so that they can move on to the next without looking like a bad guy. So when they're cheating and they're doing all those other things behind your back, they absolutely have to be justified in their behavior because they don't want to be seen as a bad person in the eyes of those who know the situation or know parts of it.
Go to therapy to heal. Go to therapy to get better. Go to therapy to get over the relationship with them, to grieve the relationship with them, to let it go. Go to therapy to heal the wounds that caused you to get into that relationship with them, and start to live a better life focused on more joy, more passion, more happiness. Do what you want to do. The narcissist is going to try and coerce you, press you, and bully you into a dark, nasty, cold, oppressive, imprisoning, and enslaving world. If you break free of that world and you refuse to live in a dark, oppressed, enslaving world, instead you're in a sunshiny, optimistic, happy, and bright one, you will drive them completely insane, because you are simultaneously reducing their significance and their power, and you are challenging the false self just by doing this. The notion of you being free, not needing them, being free from them, being happy without them, and going on and living a good life without them having poisoned you, warped you, or permanently damaged you, will drive them completely insane.
This is very true. And in regards to that, these people will essentially stalk you. I just spoke to a friend today that told me that my narcissist was stalking their social media. Mind you, this is someone from way off in my past. We are friends to this day, but they are looking for signs in other people as to how you're doing. Maybe looking at, are they seeing each other? Are they talking? Are they talking about me? These people are so insignificant to themselves, but they always need these external sources to make themselves feel better, to cope, to confirm their suspicions. They can't just sit with themselves and just say, you know what? I did that. Let me own it. Let me do the self reflection. Let me go to church. Let me go to therapy. Let me heal. No, there is no healing with these people. They are automatically into the next situation, they're into the next relationship. They dive in head first to avoid feeling anything about what transpired in a previous relationship. But while they're doing that, they're still looking back to check on you. And that's just one case that I know of. I'm pretty sure this individual has deep dove into multiple people from my past or who they think might be relevant to me. So be mindful of that as well. It's not just you that they will try to essentially stalk or keep tabs on. They will look at anyone around you and keep tabs on this as well. And that's extremely scary if you ask me. Anyone that goes just beyond you and all the damage they've already done to you, it's almost like insult to injury. They got to see if someone else is involved in, basically they're going to reach out to those people. I've heard from people whom I just have on my following list that this individual has reached out to them and they've spoken about. It's like, you damaged me. Why do you need all this external validation? But that goes back to the attention they need. They need attention from everyone and they don't care how they get it.
Because it destroys their narcissistic self-image. And all of the anguish you can cause a narcissist is going to be through either reducing their narcissistic supply or destroying, damaging the false self-narcissistic image. The fourth method for torturing the narcissist that I suggest you use if you feel it's safe and you feel it's right to do so is to mess with their supply in a very, very specific way. So narcissistic supply was identified decades ago as something that the narcissistic personality disordered individual needs. It's not love, it's not friendship, it's not an authentic reciprocal relationship with another human being. They need their own version of love and attention. It's highly narcissistic, and it really is for them like shooting up a drug. It's narcissistic supply. If you mess with that narcissistic supply, if you make them feel like they're going to be cut off from that narcissistic supply, you're going to create the kind of distress and anguish and anxiety that a junkie would feel if they felt like they were going to run out of junk, like they were going to lose their ability to get hold of more junk. If you really want to aggravate them, the threat or the potential in this scenario should be that the supply is going to be permanently damaged in a scenario, in an institution with a particular individual that they value, because they don't value all sources of supply the same. So be cunning, as you were earlier, map which sources of supply they're very dependent on or they're very, very attached to, and threaten to permanently damage those sources of narcissistic.
I'm gonna stop it right there. Be very careful if that's what you decide to do. In my particular case, I was well aware of most, not all, but most of the external supplies. If I were to reach out to any of these individuals, which in one case I did because this individual actually knew of me, this person was a neighbor. So I needed certain levels of protection because, mind you, before I figured out who this person was, they were very aware of me. So, and they were echoing the same sentiments as my narcissist. They were calling me abusive as well. So that person had already confined enough in that person that that person developed the same tendencies as my narcissist. And this person is also, after speaking with them, you can tell right away that that person is too, has a certain level of narcissistic traits because they were perfectly okay seeing someone that was in a relationship. Whether my narcissist lied about the standings of the relationship, this person did not care. I actually remember them actually saying, "It's 2026, everyone cheats." Right away, I knew I wasn't speaking with someone with any level of emotional intelligence, and they could care less. So you kind of have an idea of who narcissists' supply levels are and who they essentially confine in on that level, and that's how they thrive. It's like two toxic people who just thrive together, and essentially you're the target. So once they find someone that's like them, they will buddy up with that person. Mind you, this it's not going anywhere. So because they don't trust each other, because if one person's going to you as a means to cheat and you're aware that this person is cheating, they could never take each other seriously. There would just be too much distrust and too much uncertainty in that. But while they're together, sneaky links and all that, side chick, side dude action, they're comfortable with that. And it's a sickness. Anyone that is comfortable seeing somebody, they don't care about their health, they don't care about their well-being, because while I'm a very centered individual, the next man, next woman might not be so. There's thousands of cases, I'm sure, on a docket somewhere where these situations have turned violent. So be mindful that you're not dealing with normal people with normal levels of emotional intelligence, and it can be very corrosive. So the sooner you get away from these people, do that. But even in that situation, my narcissist was very disgruntled that I even found out who this person was. Because, mind you, they're putting up an act with everything. They're telling you every day that they're just working on themselves or they're not communicating with people. So, the moment you damage that image of themselves, you remove that mask, they will instantly have nothing but animosity towards you from that moment on. They cannot sit with themselves once they are found out. And the more you find out about them, the worse they treat you, ironically enough. You will essentially receive all of the punishment for catching them doing something that they had no business doing in the first place.
Supply by exposing the true nature of the narcissist. So we know
And they have
with
many.
narcissistic personality
They have
disorder,
many.
at the level
Most think
of
it's two or three.
the personality structure itself,
There's so many.
there was an authentic self who,
And I'm going to try to let this video finish out without going too much. They have so many external sources of attention, of supply. I mean, it goes back to old childhood friends that they keep, I guess, just coming along for the journey. And because these people are so insecure within themselves, they almost essentially allow themselves to be used just for attention. Anything deeper beyond that, the narcissist has supplies for that. So this person is simply there to feed the ego, simply there to allow them to vent to. And like I said, these people are typically someone from their far past who doesn't have enough self-awareness to realize that they're being used simply to be brought along. I compare it most closely to the friend zone. This person obviously is seeking a relationship with the narcissist, but because the narcissist has so much external validation, whether they get it through financial means, attention, sex, that that person essentially pocketed and just used in a break in emergency case scenario. Now, mind you, they, depending on your narcissist, they will have one person in particular that is their main source of validation, or someone that they value incredibly high. If you know who that person is, I mean, you can just see how they react in regards to that situation. In my particular case, I know exactly who this individual is, as they've reached out to me years prior to my relationship and basically told me, but because I couldn't verify anything, I just kind of had to sit with it. It was like she cheated on me. I'm sure she cheated with me. And actually, at the time, he did make me aware that my narcissist did end up giving him an STD. So I then had to go and get myself tested. And thankfully, maybe this happened on a different level. I was not in any way, shape, or form sick, but I've had to do several tests on myself just to make sure I was safe because I found out that my narcissist was being unfaithful. Before you get to that level, ladies and gentlemen, leave. Never put yourself in a situation like I did, being blinded by love, being blinded by someone else's potential, that they're somehow going to come out of it. They will never come out of it. It doesn't matter how you treat them. You can do the self work on yourself. You can change what they pretended that was wrong with you for you to change, but nothing will ever change on their end. So be very, very mindful. And if you notice any of these patterns with these people, just get out of there. That's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Built as a child in response to a very oppressive and abusive environment, a wall around themselves to protect themselves. And within that wall is a sort of a mirror, a Perseus shield, which distorts truth. And everything that goes through, well, first of all, very little reality actually breaks through this narcissistic shell. But when it does, the little bits of reality that break through the narcissistic shell, that which reaches the little bit of authentic self that is left there, which is mainly dead because the authentic self dies in this isolation and shrivels to almost nothing. The little bits of reality that get through are distorted as they pass through the shield, and they're reframed, they're reformatted, so that the self that looks out at the world through the shield is looking also through a mirror. And that mirror is telling the narcissistic self what the narcissistic self wants to hear. That is the false image. So no matter what happens, the narcissist is desperately fighting to restructure what is happening to fit a pre-existing fantasy-based narrative of how incredibly amazing they are. What does that mean? It means that generally speaking, in simpler language, there's the real person, the real narcissist, and then there's this fake image that they're pushing out to the world. Why do they push this fake image out to the world? To garner as much narcissistic supply, to become as significant as possible, to develop a false self, and to avoid narcissistic injury. It's a defense. It's defensive. So they're pumping this out to generate, let's say, predominantly to generate an emotional response in the people around them because they're predominantly feeding off emotion. So they're trying to get reactions from people. So they generate a false self. It's a big performance. But what does that mean? It actually means the narcissist is very vulnerable. So if you're in the middle of a narcissistic abusive relationship, you will see this overblown image of the narcissist, which is how they want you to see them. They're all powerful, they're sexy, they're an alpha female, an alpha male,
Until you
whatever the
remove their
nonsense
mask.
story is. Or they're the biggest martyr in the room. They're the biggest victim you've ever known.
Always
They've
a
suffered
victim.
more than anybody else ever has.
Always
They're
a
Christ
victim.
himself down from the cross. That would be more in line with covert narcissism or vulnerable
Exactly.
narcissism. But they're the biggest and best at something, even if they're the biggest and best at being tortured and abused and abandoned.
My narcissist was a textbook covert narcissist. A victim of every circumstance, a victim of every story. No matter what happened, this individual was always on the receiving end. Nothing they ever did was a contributing factor to what was happening to them. I have never to this day met someone who played victim more often than this individual. And it almost will blow my mind. But me, being the supportive boyfriend that I am, trying to walk them through it. Well, how did it make you feel? What did they do? You're really trying to be supportive and really understand it because you're looking at it from a perspective of someone who you care about this individual. But the moment you remove that veil, that mask that they're wearing, and you see what their true intentions are behind every motive, everything that they do is fake, you will then understand that, wow, I was just a source of attention for this individual. I was just validating their bad behavior. I was no different from the crow's nest at the time. I was used differently because I was left in the dark, while oftentimes those other people are very much in the light, the ones that they typically confine in on a more personal level, which will never be their family. They have an image to uphold in front of their family, but their friends, especially the enabling friends, they will always know the true story. You would even think that, if those people were decent people, they would, even reach out to let you know what the narcissist is doing behind your back. But that just kind of reveals their hand too. The narcissist only surrounds themselves by people that essentially okays their bad behavior.
That's what you believe when you're in the middle of it. But when you look again, you'll see the whole thing is an incredibly fragile, incredibly delicate facade that's actually very easily broken. So if you threaten to expose them, what are you threatening to expose? What you're threatening to expose is this is how they show themselves to the world. This is how they've shown themselves to this person. This is how they've shown themselves to this institution. This is how they've shown themselves to this industry. But you have evidence that, in fact, the real person is
Boy,
like
do
this.
I.
Because of the PTSD element, the trauma based element, there is a massive amount of splitting in narcissistic personality formations. There's a massive amount of black and white.
This is going to be the last time I pause it, hopefully. I got to the point where I was able to so closely see my narcissists behavior that I could almost tell if they were going through something else with one of their supplies, because the behavior would change. And I became so good at watching this person's pattern towards the end, because I ended it shortly after I learned the vast, just disgusting behavior that this person was participating in. I mean, it all led up to that, but it was just like the straw that broke the camel's back. I could not endure anymore. And we had even shifted to just being friends, because we did have a lot of joint things together, such as, lease agreements and financial obligations. But I mean, they don't care about those either. But once I got to the level where I was able to see the full picture, I was like, wow, you must be arguing with so and so. I would never say this to that person, I would just cause an argument, but I could almost see it on their face. They would completely shut down. And because you're their emotional punching bag, they're mad at that person who's probably ignoring them at that time, because you can only take so much from these people until you just have to like cut them off for a time being. It's like, oh, you must be going through something with supply A because you're treating me this way. But then trust me, they have other levels of supply that are essentially okaying them and giving them that reassurance. But in the physical sense, since you're the main target at the time, they will take that emotional baggage out on you.
So typically, not always, but typically, what their real feelings about any subject are the opposite. So they present as being very loving and very kind to, let's say, animals. They do lots of charity work with animals. But you live with them and you know personally, despite all this virtue signaling for the outside world about how much they care about animal cruelty and so on and so forth, you actually see them treat animals with either contempt, cruelty, or total indifference. So that's just a small example of something that could expose.
It's funny that he mentioned that. So in my particular situation, my narcissist does have a pet. The pet, I would say that they genuinely cared about its well-being. I'll mind you that they really neglect said pet in the form of just, regular upkeep, bathing. I mean, it's the basic necessities. It's like the cheapest pet food that you could buy, just really just all over the place. The dog had zero training. And one thing I did notice, and I had seen it early on, the pet's behavior, this was a dog, mind you, it mimicked the narcissist's behavior. So the dog almost had super high levels of anxiety. This dog had separation anxiety. I could not walk the dog without the dog constantly trying to turn around to return to the narcissist. The dog, anytime the narcissist was in an emotional state, the dog would react. And I mean, it wasn't a I'm concerned about my own reaction. It was like heightened level of anxiety, gonna match that level. And it almost blew me away. I was like, is this a form of pet abuse? Your pet should not react. There's support animals who help their owner, but you're essentially causing damage to your pet by your behavior through your actions. Outside of that, I mean, they typically showed concern for the pet, so I won't completely throw them under the bus in that regard, but I mean, it was like your basic necessities: food, walk, water. And oftentimes they would forget completely to give the dog water. So it's me going in there and, doing those things and just, buying brushes, buying collars, buying leashes. I'm actually pretty sure that they stole my dog's kennel. I had to get rid of my dog behind this because my dog was being used as emotional leverage, as a way to essentially keep inserting themselves to try to show me that they're doing something. So I found a better home for my dog because I don't need anyone in my life trying to dictate how I'm caring for my pets, which I did. And I cared so much for my own pet that I did essentially have to give her away. And Sugar, if you out there, I hope you're doing all right. But yeah, these people care very little about anything that you have going on in your life, and their pets, while they might do the basic, care for these pets, a part of them probably genuinely really doesn't care. They've probably just shown people around them that they're this great pet lover when actuality it's just another mask that they wear. They can't connect with anything, and ultimately they're just doing damage anyway.
The truth of who they really are, that ruins the false self-image that they're projecting to the world, that would permanently damage a source of narcissistic supply. You don't have to actually do this. The fear that it might happen is what will torture them and create a huge amount of mental anguish. Please use the information I have given you here for the highest good of all concerned. If you're in an abusive relationship, don't abuse the abuser. Simply leave, go to therapy, heal, reduce their significance in your life, get on with your life and live a good life.
I'm gonna stop the video there. He said some really important things, some really eye-opening things, but like he mentioned, use these things very wisely. To create injury to a narcissist is to essentially open up hell's gates. You don't know how they're going to react. Typically, it's going to be in the form of lashing out directly at you, abuse, just tirade, screaming, yelling, destroying of things, police involvement. So be very mindful of that. And what you really just should do at the end of the day is just remove yourself from the situation. Cut them off, block, move, do everything in your power to just separate yourself from these people because there is no rationale when it comes to them. With that being said, this has been another video. Once again, I am Bravo. I will leave a link in the description to this video here. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit a notification as I will be dropping content regularly. Bravo out.